Hello friends, my name is Sonal Gogri. I am faculty with Faculty of Business Administration, GLS University. In the last sessions, we talked about Unit 3's procurement. The topics were recruitment and selection that we have already covered. And in this particular session, we shall be talking about orientation and job design. So let's talk about orientation. What is orientation? Orientation is introduction, it is induction of the new employee. So whenever a new employee joins the organization, they are given introduction about the organization. That is orientation. Now let's say, imagine it's your first day at your office, right? And you are nervous. Your recruitment is done, selection is smoothly done, your interviews went well, everything is fine. Now it's your first day at office. What will happen? You will be nervous. You will be anxious, there will be some sort of discomfort, whether I will be able to work in this environment or not, whether I'll get some good friends, peers, colleagues, how is the working environment, how is the boss, how is the company's policies, the rules, pay scale, and lot of questions in your mind. To solve all these questions and to remove the anxiety and nervousness of the new employee, right? An orientation is usually been given by the organization to the new employees. So let us understand what is orientation. Orientation is also called as induction. It is designed to provide a new employee with the information he or she needs to function comfortably and effectively in the organization. It is a planned introduction of new hires to their jobs, their peers, and the company. Now, when you think of large organizations like TCS, Infosys, they recruit or employ over hundreds of candidates together at once. They usually have a large recruitment of freshers. So what do? Initially 1 or 2 days, they'll have a large orientation program. In that orientation program, it will be, covered by certain top levels of management, then middle levels of managers, and together, these experts would talk about the organization, its history, the policies, and then slowly and gradually it comes towards the department. So typically an orientation conveys 3 types of information. First is general information about the daily work routine, what is expected from the work, what are you supposed to do, and so on. A review of the firm's history, founding fathers, objectives, operations, and products or services, as well as how the employee's job contributes to the organization needs. And finally, a detailed presentation, perhaps in a brochure, of the organization's policies, work rules, and benefits. If you see everything an employee needs to know about the organization, be it the founders, be it about the company's policies, history, values, ethics, and talking about the different product lines, different culture of the organization, to finally what is expected from the employee, what is his day routine, right? All these things are usually covered in orientation. So topics which are often covered in orientation programs includes organizational issues. What are the organizational issues? What is the vision or mission of the objectives? What are the objectives of the organization? Right? What are the benefits? What are the product line basically of the organization? History of the organization, founding members, everything is being discussed usually in organizational issues. Then the orientation also covers employee benefits. What do you mean by employee benefits? Of course, pay scale. So pay scale, rewards, promotion policies, transfer policies, so different kinds of policies, HR policies you can say, right? All these things gets covered, including retirement benefits, insurance, medical benefits, education benefits, if any. So what all different benefits an employee will get if he or she stays in the organization for over a long period of time. Introduction about the organization. So it talks about the overall organization's culture, policies. Here also the peers. So also the peers. So whom are you going to work with? Who is going to be your boss? Whom will you be reporting? Who will be under you? How is your team? And all that introduction is usually given, how the organization works. And job duties. What is expected from an employee. What will be his duties, responsibilities, and so on. So all these things are covered under an orientation program. It can be for a half day, it can be for 1 day, it can be for 2-3 days or over a week. So depending on the kind of employees, the levels, their managerial work, and of course the number, how many people have been recruited together, the orientation program differs. Why is orientation done? What are the objectives of induction or orientation? So an orientation or induction program is designed to achieve the following objectives. First, to reduce the initial anxiety of new entrants. All new entrants feel when they join a new job in a new organization. As I said, when it's your first day in the organization, you are usually anxious, nervous, and orientation program helps to reduce that initial level of anxiety. To familiarize new employees with the job, people, workplace, work environment, and the organization. To facilitate outsider-insider transition in an integrated manner. This is very interesting, very important, right? Because if an orientation is done properly, the existing employees would be welcoming the newer ones, and the newer employees would always feel comfortable. There will not be a gap, too much of gap, communication gap between the new and the existing or the old employees. And orientation is usually helpful, and it is facilitating outsider-insider transition. To reduce exploitation by unscrupulous co-workers, right? So that no misinformation or rumors are given. An orientation, usually a planned orientation, will give you the right information. So chances of exploitation of a new or a fresh employee reduces. And to reduce the cultural shock faced in any new organization. Now there are different types of orientation programs. Usually for an organization, these are called as strategic choices, right? For an organization, which orientation program to go for. It is a strategic choice in order to make sure that their talent is not only well managed but also retained for a long period of time. And therefore, orientation is very important. Starting with the first one, let us first understand formal and informal orientation. I think from the name itself it is clear, right? Formal. What is formal? An organization arranges an orientation in a formal manner, wherein they talk about rules, regulations, history, and the culture, policies about the organization formally. So usually suitable when there are large people and you are putting up a formal orientation, maybe in an auditorium, in a seminar room, or so on. So here the management has a structured program which is executed when new employees join the firm. The new hire will acquire known set of standards. So there are fixed set of standards जो every orientation में organization को अपने employees को बताना है. Formal orientation is elaborate and is spread over a couple of weeks or months. So when we say it's spread over a couple of weeks or so, what is actually covered in orientation, right? So basically it starts from top level management where they talk about vision, mission, culture, what was the history, how strong the organization is, how old it is, and so on. Then it is usually then taken by head of departments wherein they talk about how departments function, what is the organization structure, what are the, HR benefits, and so on. And then the orientation is finally divided by, different people will then go to their different departments, different teams, and their team leader or departmental head will do their orientation about the functional benefits or functional duties which an employee has to perform. So this kind of a formal orientation helps in bringing a known set of, wonderful opportunity for communication, knowing an opportunity to know, things better about the organization. Next is informal orientation. So here it is little different, right? New hires are directly put on their jobs. So it's no longer a formal orientation. When they come, they are just given their job, given a place to sit, and they are expected to accommodate themselves, familiarize themselves. So they are expected to acclimatize themselves with the work and the company. Informal orientation is desirable to maintain individual differences, innovative ideas and healthy questioning. Now you may wonder how. Formal में आपको बताया जाता है that this is the policy you are supposed to follow, this is the rule you are supposed to follow. In informal, there are no such things which organization is expecting you to follow. They want you to come up with innovative ideas, questioning, you should be curious, you start asking questions, right? So informal orientation is usually done so that individual differences, innovative ideas and healthy questioning is well maintained. Informal orientation tends to be brief lasting, 1 hour or even less, and usually it is done by the direct HOD or the senior manager. Now the choice depends on which one to go for, formal or informal. It of course depends on management's goal. Whether management has a strong legacy which they want to be carried forward, or is it a new build-up startup which wants new ideas and innovation to come up with. So it all depends on which one to go for. It depends on organization's goals. The second orientation is individual and collective. Starting with individual, as the name suggests, one-on-one kind of an orientation. So the individual approach is likely to develop far less homogeneous views than collective orientation. So it is less homogeneous. Individual orientation is more likely to preserve individual differences and perspectives. So what is individual one-on-one orientation? Usually done with HR or HOD. And the idea is you do not want to share ये rule है, ये policy है और सब लोग ये follow करो. So it's one-on-one. Let us have some communication. So the idea is that individual person preserves his ideas, his differences and his perception as well as perspectives. Orienting each person separately is of course expensive and it is time-consuming method. It also denies the new hire the opportunity of sharing anxieties for fellow appointees. And most small firms, so this is the wrong word, yeah. Most small firms which have fewer new appointees to socialize frequently use individual approach. So what is again individual one-on-one, right? HOD या कोई एक person हो. Of course it is expensive क्योंकि आप एक के पीछे इतना ज़्यादा time spend कर रहे हो, so it's time consuming too. और वो नए employee को chance नहीं दे रहा कि सबके साथ वो communicate कर पाए because it's all one to one. But the idea is that यहाँ पे आप उनको general rules, regulations ये सब नहीं बताते हो, and therefore an individual employee would be able to preserve individual differences. Collective is opposite, where you are recruiting large number of people together, right? Then you go for collective orientation. Collective orientation is quite similar to formal orientation too. And therefore, as we said that individual orientation, since it is suitable to small firms, collective orientation will be suitable to large firms. So what is collective? Where there are large number of people you have recruited together, group of people, and entire group you are orienting them formally. So it is of course formal. And it maintains homogeneity. Everyone has to follow these rules, these regulations, these policies. Of course, less expensive and less time consuming, opportunity to socialize and meet fellow employees, and large firms generally have collective orientation approach. As you can see, individual socialization is popular with large firms when they hire executives whose number is small. So when you are hiring small number of people, you can go for individual orientation. When the recruitment is done at a large level, then normally organizations would go for formal collective orientation. Next is serial. So serial and disjunctive are similar orientation types. Serial orientation is more like a synchronized orientation where it comes from, your immediate superior will orient the junior. For example, my senior would orient me and I will do the orientation for the next employee, next junior to me. So orientation becomes serial when an experienced employee inducts a new hire. The experienced employee acts as a tutor and model for the new hire. So what happens in this case? Someone is orienting, my senior is orienting me, I am orienting the new junior. So we are able to maintain the traditions, right? ये हमें बताया गया था, हम आपको वो बताएंगे. So of course it maintains traditions and customs. Consistent use of this strategy will ensure minimum amount of change within the firm over time. And therefore you're able to maintain traditions and customs. But maintenance of status quo itself may breed resistance to change, right? And further, if the experienced employee is frustrated, this is the drawback. If the experienced employee is frustrated and apathetic towards work and the firm, it is likely that he or she would pass on the same to the new hire. So for example, if I am frustrated with my work and if I am orienting the new employee, I would definitely pass on my frustrations, right? And therefore, serial orientation is successful only if you select the right employees, the satisfied employees for orienting their juniors. Next is disjunctive orientation. So this is just opposite to serial. Serial में क्या था? आपका एक experienced person होगा. Your experienced person, your direct superior would be doing the orientation. Disjunctive is opposite. When there are no such direct superiors, you do not have such predecessors, then the orientation tends to be disjunctive. Usually disjunctive orientation is done by an HR or the overall leader. So when new hires do not have predecessors available to guide them or to model their behavior upon, the orientation becomes disjunctive. Such induction is likely to produce more inventive and creative employees because the new hire is not burdened by traditions. So the advantages आपको पता होगा. Serial में क्या था? One by one एक एक करके सब एक दूसरे को orient कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पे we are following. What are we following? We are following traditions, customs. In case of disjunctive, there is no one directly to tell. I don't have to tell someone. So there is no such customs. Right? So let us be inventive, creative, new ideas come in. But the benefit is to be weighed against the potential of creating deviants, that is individuals who fail due to inadequate role model to understand how their job is to be done and how it fits into the grand scheme of the company. So of course one has to wonder, do you want this to happen? Do you want extreme new ideas, new ways? Otherwise that will be little misfit for new employees to join the organization. So that becomes the drawback. So the drawback, I hope it is simple, how it fits into the grand scheme of the company, because there is no role model, no one to guide, no one to orient. Okay, and the last one is about investiture and divestiture, whether you want to maintain your original identity or you want to dismantle the identity. So this is important, need for maintaining and dismantling of the new hire's identity. So what is investiture? Investiture orientation seeks to ratify the usefulness of the characteristics that a person brings to the new job. Usefulness of the characteristics. High level appointments. Let's take an example. Let's say an organization hires a new CEO or a new director to run the company. Now CEO को आप orient नहीं कर सकते. आप ये नहीं बोलोगे company की policy तुम्हें follow करना है. Rather, an organization is hiring a new CEO so that a new CEO comes up with his experience, his knowledge, some new policies, some new rules, regulations and duties so that the organization can succeed. In that case, the organization is not expecting the new employee to change, but the new employee can bring up his or her own fresh perspective and experience. That is called as investiture. So most high level appointments follow this approach because a person is appointed as an executive on the basis of what he or she can bring to the company. The new hires are given freedom to select their office furnishings and subordinates and to make other decisions that will reflect on their performance. I hope this made sense. CEO, director, executives, इनको orientation करके हम ये नहीं बताएंगे कि rules, regulations है आपको follow करना है. Rather, when they come with their fresh experience and the organization has to function according to them, because then they would have to show that what all objectives they want to achieve. Divestiture is opposite. It is basically dismantling your entire identity so that it can fit to the in the organization. Divestiture orientation, on the other hand, seeks to make minor modifications in the characteristics of new hire, albeit he or she was selected based on his or her own potentials or performance. This is done to seek better fit between a new member and the firm. The fine-tuning may take shape of requiring the appointees to sever old friendships, accepting different ways of looking at their jobs, peers, or the organization's goals. The new hire may even made to undergo harassment, simulated or mock, at the hands of a senior staff to verify if he or she can be moduled to the requirements of the firm required. Divestiture strategies are followed for inducting new hires into military, professional, football, police academies, fraternal groups, religious cults, self-realization groups, and so on. So what is the premise? The premise behind divestiture strategies is to dismantle the old mindset of the new member so that instilling the new ideas or values of norms becomes easy. I hope this made sense. Examples dekh lo, military, police academies, fraternal groups, religious cults, self-realization groups. So if you have to join military, right, or if you need to be very much in discipline. You might have to let go of few things. You might have to let go of few habits, right? You cannot say meri aisi aadat hai. You need to change. That is called dismantling your identity. That is called minor modifications in your character, right? Ki now you need to change so that you can fit better in the organization. So the idea of divestiture is to make minor modifications in the characteristics and to make, to look out for a fit between the new member and the firm. As we said, as we can see, an employee can also be undergone with certain harassments, certain stress, so that पता चले कि वो manage कर पाएगा या नहीं उस level का stress, right? So let's read the last line again. The premise behind divestiture strategies is to dismantle the old mindset of the new member so that instilling a new set of values or norms becomes easy. So I hope these four strategic choices of orientation program are clear, right? So formal and informal. Formal has to be planned properly by the organization. Informal is not planned and small one-on-one interaction sort of a thing, right? Individual is of course one-to-one done, so it's very short and brief. Collective is usually done with a group. Serial is done with the senior employee, orienting junior, or uska junior will now orient the next junior. And disjunctive is when you don't have predecessors, right, or seniors. Investiture generally done for top level executives. So when they are hired, they have to bring in their fresh perspective and their personality. Divestiture, you're looking to modify the personality of the existing employee, right, of the new employee. And why do you want to look to change it? So that they can fit in the organization. Divestiture examples, I hope you remember, police academies, military, and so on.